In previous lecture, we talked about what named credential is, how it is going to give us the benefit, how we can get benefited from that. In this lecture, we are actually going to implement that. So if you remember, we have implemented a system with Salesforce. We integrated that, which is Freshdesk. Now we are going to replace that Freshdesk with our named credential. So if you remember, or if you have not remembered, I can just go walk you through quickly. I can say Freshdesk API documentation. Not OAuth, it is using basic authentication for authenticating the API and getting the response or sending the data to Freshdesk. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to replace the actual implementation that we did inside our Salesforce org with this named credential. So let's quickly have a look over here. First thing that we need to go is just go to from the setup, just type named credential, and under the security control itself you will get named credential. Click on that link, it is going to open the same window where we are currently. Now if you click over here, you say named credential. If you click on new named credential, it will open an interface for you, and that interface will have various things, like it is saying that label, what label you want it to have, right? I'm going to say Freshdesk. This is the label that I want it to have, and this is important. This we are going to use. Now URL, you might be wondering what URL we need to use. So we need to use the base URL for making the API callouts. Make a note of this, for making the API callouts, not for getting that access token. So from where we can get for this, so we can just go to remote site settings, and in the remote site settings we have added that this is our base URL, right? So I'm just going to copy this and paste it over here, and I will say this is the URL which I'm going to use for making the callouts. Now it is asking for some certificate. If your API is having more security, or they are trying to mutually authenticate with two-way SSL, you might be having a certificate. You need to upload that, but we don't have for this. We're not going to use. Identity type, if you select here, you can see per user, named principal, right? So you can say either per user or named principal. If you say named principal, it is going to show you the some sort of authentication. Even if you select per user, it is going to select give you the same. You see over here, right? It has less. So now what we need to do is, per user is something, suppose that you have different user for the same URL, and they wanted to get the information based on their logins, not the actual admin logins. We can use per user. Otherwise we can use named credential when we have the single URL, and even if we have multiple users but we wanted to use any single user. So we are going to use named credential, named principal, and this is password authentication. Password authentication is nothing. Basically, this is the only which is known as username and password, which is basic authentication. As soon as you will select this password authentication, it will ask your username and password for the first time. So from where you can get your username and password, if you remember, we have created a custom label where we stored our API key and character called x, which was separated by a colon. Now what we need to do is we just need to use API key as a username and that character x as a password. Now if you see, let me quickly go ahead and save this. Now you can see over here, right? We are here in this named credential. Suppose that I am the admin who came back and try to edit this named credential, try to get the information. Suppose I'm here and try to edit this. If I edit this, I will not be able to see the password. And now you can see the password is encrypted. So that is how Salesforce is securing our data with the help of named credential. Now we have created this named credential. Now try to get that information or use this inside our Salesforce. So we just copied this Freshdesk, which is my name. I will get back to my developer console, and this is our class that we implemented, Freshdesk util. Now we don't need this because we are using named credential and there is no use of these endpoint, or we can say that the base URL of our endpoint. Now here we are trying to implement that for creating a ticket. Okay, so what you see here over in this authorization, we have used this. I'm going to comment out this, and for this endpoint we are using this endpoint. If you see over here, right, this is saying the ticket endpoint. So how we are going to do that, we are going to say over here, we will say callout colon, this is the name of our named credential, which is saying that Freshdesk. Now what actually we wanted to get is tickets. So we are just going to copy this, come out over here, copy this, and I'm going to replace this in our list all tickets method, because we will just try to see by listing all those tickets. Now if you see over here, we got this, what we said call out. We are trying to make the call out. What is our named credential name, which is saying that Freshdesk, and then this is the URL that we try to hit, right? If you go to again this our named credential, you can see there is no forward slash. If we are using forward slash, please make sure you don't use the forward slash over here. So what you need to do is you no need to use forward slash there in this URL. Okay, now let's try to get this list all contacts. Okay, so if this is the contacts, I'm going to make as contacts instead of tickets, because we wanted to get the contacts. I've just copied this. I'm going to use here, I will say Freshdesk util dot list all contacts. Okay, let's open this debug log and see if we have tried to put a debug over here. We said that response from server and we say execute. If there is any error, we'll definitely get that error. Otherwise, we'll get that success response over here. You can see here response from server, line number 119, line number 124, and we are getting all those response. Now there are two debug, 119, 124. And we can verify that we have got 124 and 119. So that's how you can see. Now there is no need of adding this authorization and all. This is for basic authentication, right? We will definitely implement for Auth 2.0, where we did a lot to get the access token, and we also did write a code for getting the refresh token. But once we will be using this named credentials, we no need to worry about all those ample number of lines of the codes that we have implemented for getting access and refresh token.